Well, as best as I can, you know.
You're sitting so still, like, I'm ready.
Oh
We
no,
are
it just,
live. I
yeah,
know,
that
you're
was the
relaxed.
posture.
I
Yeah.
like it. Well, welcome to Chai Together, Jamal. How do you feel?
Well, I feel great, awesome. It's been a beautiful day. So I'm just really just soaking up the energy today.
Mm-hmm. Tell us where you live.
Well, currently I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm involved in I work with Youth Villages, which is a nonprofit. We work with families and children using the multi-systemic therapy model.
Tell us more about that.
Well, multi-systemic therapy, what it is basically is we like to use the five different sectors where we go from individual, family, community, peers, and we also use the school sector. But if a kid is in work, it kind of works as well with the community. And we have the opportunity to work with these families who the kids may be in juvenile detention and they may be coming out of juvenile detention. And what ends up happening is we work with DCS, which is Department of Children Services out here, and we kind of are the middle people. So we help the families learn the skills, the tools, and make sure that they have any referral behaviors that they have. We kind of help them just to decrease those behaviors and get the tools to where they can function as a family instead of really relying on the system because a lot of kids get lost in the juvenile justice system. And a lot of kids really, if they had the families and they had people who were supportive of them or who knew how to kind of handle those behaviors, it would be a lot more success.
I have a question for you. Thanks, Crystal, for joining in.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
are these children underserved, like minorities, or what kind of kids? Are they from low income? What kind of sector are they from?
Well, any family, high income, low income,
Mm-hmm.
any with whatever happens with them, whatever family structure that they're built into,
Mm-hmm.
we work with them. As long as most of the kids that I have, they are on probation, but we work with them for a typical range of 4 months is the max. But
Wow.
we go probably 2 to 4 months where I meet with the families 3 times a week for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a very high success rate. So it's not based on whether the family is high or low income or
Mm-hmm.
it's just based on as far as what do you want to accomplish and kind of showing them that it takes a village to raise
Mm-hmm.
a child. So
It does. So, I have another question. What is the goal of this nonprofit? And can you tell us the name of the nonprofit again, please?
the nonprofit is Youth Villages
Youth
and
Villages in
yes, Youth
Tennessee.
Villages. Yes. Well, they're more than in Tennessee. We have multiple locations going
Mm-hmm.
from Florida to Ohio, sprinkled around. So it's a lot of different facilities. I just work for the one in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And what the goal is just to connect to build families because our symbol is a red kite. We like to use the red kite as a symbol just to make sure that we create that awareness in the communities because with my program MST we have multiple programs in youth villages which
Hmm.
it's it's a multiple program but with my program we have foster care. We also have um, foster care recruiters to where we can train parents and give them the skills to, if they wanted to take in the child, they could take in the child. If we also have residential communities and residential services for children who are displaced, so they can come to our residential services where we have great technicians and people who can work with them. We have Intercept, which is more so with the cognition aspect of it, where MST is more so the systemic portions of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of similar. But our goal is really to help these families really get whether it's some services we use help the family to get the kids back and
Mm-hmm.
or with the skills of the parent. Because a lot of times we notice that it's skill deficit versus actually the it just being too much conflict. It may be conflict to where the parents don't know how to handle
Mm-hmm.
the behaviors going on with the child.
So, and this is different from social work. So, what are some of the aspects that are different? What you
Um,
do as a therapist. Can you tell us what kind of therapist you are too?
well, multi-systemic therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We use components of cognitive behavior, but it's not limited to cognitive behavior. We're more so related to evidence based therapy. So we like to create goals that's attainable so that way the parents and the families can track their progress.
Mm-hmm.
First is the traditional talk therapy. We use components of talking, but we go through a process in which we create what we call a fit. Because everything that happens is derived and driven from something else. So if you have, for instance, a family, let's say if they have a high conflict where the kids aren't getting along, sometimes it may be a single family home, sometimes it may be where both parents are in the home. And the parents sometimes may be disconnected from the child. They may have to do what they have to do, maybe have work heavy hours, and it may be something as simple as not being supervised. As a result of not being supervised, you now hang with peers, the peers who are also unsupervised, and then you start to get involved in other things. You may have a group of negative peers, you may have a group of positive peers, but both things are important because the parents ultimately are the change agents.
Hmm.
You know, we like to put things on the kids, which kids they are 100% responsible for their actions, not to dissolve them in any way, shape, or form. But the parents have a role that sometimes they don't understand.
Hmm.
Sometimes they don't understand that it's kind of which I use this terminology sometimes. If you have someone who's suffering from substance use,
Mm-hmm.
they can sometimes go cold turkey and stop using substances. But a lot of times it takes a system of support to help. It takes a system, it takes support, it may take some education, it takes consistency. Sometimes it's like that with the kids. You say, well, the kid isn't listening, they're involved in X, Y, and Z. Well,
Mm.
who's going to support them through it? Are we going to just let them do it themselves? Are we going to step in? Are we going to help them until they're ready to stand on their own 2 feet and just push through it?
So well said. I want to ask you
Mhm.
what made you work for this nonprofit? Did you always want to work in nonprofits or
Oh,
no?
yeah. Well, actually, it was just a blessing to me because I originally, living in Florida, moving from
Mm-hmm.
Daytona Beach, I was just looking for something different. And it wasn't the fact that it was a nonprofit, it was what it stood for. And I'm a person that believes in family, and I believe that
Mm-hmm.
family is the cornerstone. It's a lot of evidence to show that the things that occur in a family affects the community.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we really look at it, the communities and the individual families that make up the communities, it's the same things that starts to affect the larger picture. So you have the family structure, you go from family structure, and then you break down into how the household is run. You go
Hmm.
from how the household is run, the way household is run, or some things that occur within the household, whether it's substance use, domestic violence, the multitude of things that can occur within the family. It trickles down into the neighborhood. The neighborhood makes up communities, communities makes up cities, cities are the things that create our nation. So a lot of these things can be trickled down to the family structure, and I like the fact that it's so structured to family, so
Hmm.
structured to not isolating the kids and making the kids feel like, if something's wrong with you, which that's not how it typically goes, but I know people have this preconceived notion on therapy, which we have to break down those barriers as well. But just to let the family know that I am not the expert on your family, you
Hmm.
are. There's nothing. It's not to say that this thing is broken. It's just sometimes you have a bunch of tools and you're using a screwdriver where you should use a wrench or a hammer, just to show them that they have the tools. Everything is there. You just have to know how to use it. And if you don't have the tools, we can give you the tools and we're going to practice using them together instead of leaving the parents on the island by themselves and leaving the kids on the island by themselves, because the parents need support too. Parents need support, the kids need support. And once they both see that, wow, we both just need a little support, a little help, then it kind of starts to come together.
Which country are we from? Someone asked. We're from America.
Yeah, right. Yes,
Woo!
yes.
America.
Yes.
Indian born. You were born in the States, right,
Oh,
Jamal?
yes, I was born in the States, but
There you go.
yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you, Like, do you have your own dream of having your own nonprofit, or like, what is your dream with the career? Do you want to take it another route?
Yes, well, one thing that I really looked into that I'm very passionate about is
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about families, and I'm also passionate about just taking care of the communities. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I'm looking into now, which just to share a little bit, is building. I want to build a community of, homeless shelters. Initially, I wanted to do it for veterans, but I'm
Mm,
still working that part out of where I want to go because I understand that it is a we have a like you talked about underserved portions of the community for various reasons. Some can be I know people who is homeless because their mental health were not addressed and they may
mhm,
have suffered from some cognitive deficits or schizophrenia, different forms of psychiatric needs that would ignore. So I want to build more so a tiny house community to where we can just
oh,
have people come in who need services, but it would include, of course, you have mental health portions of it. You may have some social services in place
mhm,
just to give them the skills, get them a leg up, and create something bigger. Because ultimately, that's what it's about. I feel ultimately that's what it's about is giving. Some people lose hope. Some people lose all visuals of the future. They don't
hmm,
have anything that it really feel like it's tangible for them.
mhm.
They just start to live the day to day process. So
Like how they say, "Don't dream." Like growing up, I was told, "Don't dream big." I dream too big. That kind
right,
of
right,
thinking,
right,
right? Were you told
right.
the same thing? Like, oh,
Oh
like
yeah,
dreams don't come true.
yes. And which our mentor Les Brown, he talked about shoot for the moon
Yay.
because even if you miss, you land amongst the stars. That's something that I look at. It's like it just sticks so perfectly because dreams can be altered, right?
Mhm.
It's a lot of things that we dream that can be taken from us because of somebody else's perspective, what they think, what they believe in, their expectation of us, or where they think we should be in life, or so many different pieces to the system. So I believe that there's no dreaming too high. Sometimes it's like Les Brown states, it's not that we aim too high and miss, is that we aim too low and hit. Like you hit exactly what you
Mm.
aim for. So it's not. I feel like we just need the target, and we need.
Yeah. I saw
Yeah.
him live like 2 weekends ago, I think now in New York. Like he was directly across from me and I thought I was gonna cry because like it was
Yeah.
such a big deal, you know? It was so emotional.
Yes.
Like when they were like, he's about to come out, like get up on your feet. I was like, I think I'm gonna cry. Because we were in
Yes.
the program to see him
Yes.
like online, like everything he gave to us, and then to see him in person, I was like, oh my God, like I'm alive for this. Like, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Because he's
Yes.
77. I was like, I think I'm gonna cry.
Yes. Yes. And it's very deep because he's actually coming to Nashville.
Are you going?
And I mean, yes, yes, I'm definitely going.
Oh
I'm
my God.
definitely going
Let
out.
me tell you, it's so memorable. Like even when he passes on, I can say like, hey, like I saw him in person. Like
Yes. Yes.
I didn't get to speak with him, but he was directly across from me. Like I can see him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This.
Like in person. Like wow.
Yes. And I
Same.
can tell. I'm excited for it. I'm excited. Just waiting.
Man, it was so real. It just makes it more real. Like, when
Yeah.
you see not even him, but all the other public figures, all the other
Right.
successful people that are there, it
Yeah.
makes it real. Like, hey, that's possible for you. Like other
Right.
people made it. And
Right.
seeing some of the people from Power Voice in person, like seeing everyone, like that really,
Right.
I feel like those are the important things in life, not
Yes. Yeah.
just, yeah, I think those are the important things in life, those connections. So I want to ask you, what led you to be so passionate about being a therapist? I know you told me like a
Yeah.
long time ago, but still.
Okay. And so for me personally, I feel like which is one of the philosophies that I stand on is that what you do, your career, I feel like your career should be based in what you would do if you didn't get paid for it.
That's right.
So
Yay.
it's not about being. It's my contribution. I consider myself a very spiritual person, which I feel as if I have to do my part, whatever it is. Whatever it is. My part is, in which video, we joked about early
Mhm.
on before we got on, is just the calmness, the demeanor that I have at times. I, I can take energy without taking it home.
Mm.
That's just a gift that God blessed me with, which since I'm able to do that, I feel like that's where I excel at.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to take energy, saying, okay, what do we do with this energy? And then doing what's needed to be done with that energy. So helping these families, I noticed that I would always end up being that friend, and people would call me. And they, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? So it was before I ever got paid, before I even knew what I
Wow.
wanted to do. It was
Wow.
always the thing where it just not getting not getting pulled into my what I consider to be my weaknesses.
Hmm.
Because to be honest, I never thought I would be a speaker in any type of way, help anybody anyway with my voice, because
Oh.
in any way, shape, or form. So I
Wow.
live in those places of just whatever you're passionate about, whatever you feel like your gift is, whatever God bless you with that you do anyway, do that, and you will be a lot more happier. Which we can always look
Oh.
at things and say, well, I can do this to get this more money here, more money there, but
Mm,
you know,
that's
people
not
don't.
fun.
Yeah, I learned people don't love money. People like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? People love money. They don't love money. They love
Mm-hmm.
what money does. That's
Mm-hmm.
so if you have that,
Hi,
then
Shauna. Hi,
yeah,
Shauna. Yes. I really like what you said there because, people may say, because I know for therapy, right, to be a therapist, you need like the master's level to even get the,
oh yeah,
better salary.
yeah,
So, and I'm going to grad school myself. So it's like, I understand,
yes, yeah,
but you're not going to have passion for it or like you're going to get through it miserably if you don't enjoy it. Like you have to love what you do,
yeah,
it has to align with you. So, like when you were pursuing therapy, and now we're going to get into it, like you being a black man as a
yeah.
therapist, have you met other black men who are therapists, and like have you collaborated and like shared perspectives on maybe like the discrimination and other things you may come across? Do you?
Yes. Well, that was very interesting for me because I met a lot of powerful therapists. Black men, black women. Just being in that minority group,
Mm-hmm.
it was very interesting because, and I want to make sure I answer your question. I want to make
Yeah,
sure
it's
I answer
okay.
your
Take your
question. So,
time.
so just noticing the disparities, I noticed even from the beginning, even into grad school, people telling me, you have to cut your hair. Just starting there, you have to cut your hair. You won't be accepted in that place,
Mm.
and you have to do things different. And I always like to look at things from a particular perspective because I feel like your life is shaped from perspective and philosophies. The philosophies that you have will dictate your life, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
but that is definitely a conversation that we can have. What
The
I
one Oh, sorry. The one thing I
uh,
wanted to tell you was the first thing I noticed was that you're dressed casually like yourself. Like I've seen you.
yeah,
You love waterfalls. You're a nature, spiritual person. Like you didn't have to
yeah,
change your look to
yeah,
be doing your therapist job, which I
right,
like because I know someone who came on here who shared that their spouse even cut off their dreads, like their hair,
yeah,
because they thought that's why they were not getting a job. But happened they still didn't get the job even after they cut off their hair and they were
yeah,
black. So now
yeah,
they finally got a job, but it's like they kept not getting one. They wondered, someone said maybe it's your hair, you know?
right,
How
right,
sad is that? I can only imagine me being South Asian, I'm brown, but the fact that let's say, oh, I have this hair, like for example, I get told, oh, no one's gonna marry you, in our culture because I have short hair, or those kind of
right,
stereotypes. Like people want like long Indian hair for like Indian girls, like all that bullshit. And it's like,
yeah,
no, like that's not true. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
that's just how I would feel. Like if I didn't get a job today because I have short hair, I would not like that feeling. That's not
right,
right. You know what I
right.
mean? For
Yes,
something so small.
yeah, and it even got to the point where even as I was already deep into my therapy, work with families, which before I worked with kids, I did work with I did completely CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy,
Hmm.
and working into helping people change those cognitions and really just get through their day-to-day stress, from trauma to sexual trauma to anything that you can name. And I had situations to where I would go to people's houses and they wouldn't want services from me,
Wow.
So, and it made me think, like, I can't take it
Mm-hmm.
personal because that would their situation is serious. And because
Mm-hmm.
they have other thought process, doesn't take away from me. They still need help and need services. And I learned how to separate, the personal feel, because it's ultimately not about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I'm smiling because what you said,
Yeah.
because you go to somebody's door, you're here to help them. It's kind of like when the boy calling for help, he's drowning, and God sends three boats. No, like I'm waiting for God to
Yeah.
save me when it's three boats.
Right.
You're showing up at someone's house with the services they need. They turn you away because they want to be judgmental, regardless of
Right.
religious beliefs. Like they're just
Right.
judgmental. It's like, is getting help more important than your judgment? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like,
Right.
that is silly to me. You could have a PhD and look like that. I know someone
Right.
else, another gentleman, he has PhD in school psychology, and all the kids gravitate towards him because they never seen a black teacher or a black
Right.
like anyone in the school system. I
Right.
think I only had one professor I ever came across, but I never had a black teacher. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, especially if these families are white, and I don't know. I feel like the connotation of dreads being dirty and black people being
Right.
dirty, black
Right.
people being ghetto, welfare, like let's just get the facts straight. Like welfare was not even for black people, right? Do I have
Right.
this right? It
Right.
was made for white
Right.
people back in the day.
Right.
I'm getting deep up in here, but it's
Oh
just
no,
like
look,
I
we
dated
could.
I dated black men with dreads. Like I dated a Honduran guy with dreads. Like
Yeah.
my children, if you remember, I did have a pregnancy and my children were Cameroonian and Indian.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was expecting twins that are Cameroonian. So, obviously I've been with black men. So for people to say, they're dirty or they're not shit, it's like you're not shit because of your
Right.
thinking. Because you're not
Right.
gonna,
Right.
the fact that you're
Right.
judging off of skin, like black people were here first. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
I was just really
Yeah.
like South Asians, me coming here as an immigrant, wouldn't have even went down if black people weren't here first. Like we're not even here first. You know what I mean? So when
Right.
Indian people, also South Asian people discriminate, let's say if you went to a South Asian home, they're like, no, because they think black people steal this, that, and the third. It's like you could have a PhD, like I said, and
Right.
they could be judging you. So I think that's bullshit. It's like unless you're in a
Right.
suit, the like white privilege, it's like they will always judge you.
Right. Yeah.
I just
And
had
that.
to go in because I think it's bullshit. It's not right, you know?
Yeah. And it's deep, and that's why I like to call myself
Put it in the
multiverse. I'm like
cartoon.
very multi. I can switch it up. If I throw on a suit, I'm still gonna wear it how I wear it. It's the old African proverb where there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do no harm.
Mm.
And I like to really live on that because sometimes I find myself not understanding where people are at. If you're that way,
Mm.
cool. That's their struggle. I would still love to help you.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get into those places to where our own stresses, which
Mm.
Les Brown, he talks about all the time, where he says, this is no place. Sometimes he say the stage is no place for therapy. And I
Mhm.
look at like, okay, cool. It's just one of those principles where I look at wherever I'm at, that's not the place for therapy. I gotta go ready
Hmm.
for war, whether it's mental war, to help this person get from where they need to be. Because ultimately we are professionals, right?
Mhm.
The firefighter can't complain because the fire's hot. you know, he
Bro.
knows it's hot. He knows it's hot. That's why he's there.
So when you like
Yeah.
leave these homes, they say no, like tell me like an example of like the worst experience, like, And then when you walk away, do you like laugh? Like I would just laugh
Yeah.
like it's like you're like it's your job, but at the same time I would just smile because the world will keep moving and you'll still be in your suffering
Right.
because you're saying no. Like,
You know, right. And to say worst experience would be very tough because I I really streamline myself to where it's not a matter of
mm,
bad or good, it's a matter of what happened and what needs to happen.
wow.
There were some situations that were tougher for me. And it was tough more so because it takes longer to figure out or help the family figure it out.
Mm,
And those are the situations. The hardest situations for me is going into a home and the family projects as if they don't care about each other because they want help, but they would. I had situations where parents would say, "Fix him, fix him, fix him. It's not about me. You have to
mm,
have fix." And I'm like, okay, I'm not the person who will be the agent of change because, for one thing, I can't come into your house and demand anything of you.
mm-mm,
That's number one. I can't tell you what's right or wrong. It's not my position to come and give my personal beliefs or anything on you.
mm-mm,
And then also, I'm not an authority figure. So if
mm-hmm,
I'm an authority figure, I have to now be either part of your family or be a part of the system, which
mm,
I'm neither of those things. So what I tend to ask people, what do you want and how can I help you get it? And if I can, what can I do to be serviceable to you? Because ultimately, it's just on the spirit side, we're servants of God,
mm,
and we need to serve the people in whatever way it is that they need service.
mm-hmm.
So for me, it keeps me in a place to where I myself don't carry it with me.
mm,
I don't carry it with me because the only way I can carry it is if I take responsibility and own their thing.
mm.
Which
Wow.
is it's a very very tough place to be. It gets rough.
It
So,
just it
uh,
still makes me laugh. It still makes me
you know,
laugh. People make me laugh. Like,
yes, yes.
um, yeah. So I want to ask you, when you did join with Mr. Les Brown and, regarding the speaking, so do you want to do more with speaking? With
Yes,
it?
I do. I do. I believe that, I love helping families one on one, but
Mm,
if I can help 100 families at one time,
mm-hmm,
that would be, that would be even more than because I just feel as if there's not a cap
mm,
on how much people you can help.
mm-hmm.
So I do want to do more speaking, and I went through a lot of different mindsets, with it because I like to challenge myself, but I
Mm,
also know that this that transitioning to that portion of life is just a part of just growth, just continue growing. So if you're gonna talk to people, make sure you iron everything out because the stage is not a place for therapy, right?
mm,
So I'm learning how to help in more effective ways
hmm,
in which that's all I just want to be more effective, more effective, more effective. So I definitely look towards the future, doing speaking engagements, which I did a few
mhm.
already. I did a few speaking engagements already.
Yay!
It was good. I did Silence the Violence. It was a Silence the Violence speaking engagement out here in Nashville, which was very good. It was impactful, which was very
Mm,
powerful. We had a family who the her son was killed from police
mm.
violence, and she was fighting for justice and really just getting her story out there, and people came out there to support. And I got a chance to be a part of that, and it was very powerful. So
I don't know if people understand the energy it takes to fight for something like that. Like, I
yeah,
recently saw Finding Kendrick Johnson. If you remember the
mhm,
black boy who was found in the mat rolled up in the gym.
yeah,
Do you remember
yeah,
that story? So
yeah,
Jason Pollock is an independent filmmaker. Him and I forget the lady who narrated, and she's African American.
mhm,
Jason Pollock is white, and he made a movie on Kendrick Johnson. And watching that, it went all the way back into like Black history. I forget the lady's name, Turner. I'm not sure, but it was like some really graphic, horrific things from, back in the day and showcased everything, things I didn't even know. Even if we had like Black history, like
right,
courses and things, there's so much to it, right?
yeah,
And that movie right there, like, it just shows like how years after years, like you spent your whole life fighting for something that extreme. Like, for example, I had went to file a case at the police for harassment, right?
Oh yeah.
And just imagine, and nothing was done. So I gave it my energy and nothing was done. A few months ago. It was two men and I reported them for harassing me and I was scared. I thought like I may die, like I may get shot.
Yeah.
As I was walking away, I had tears in my eyes because that's a very traumatic experience. People now, not even now in general, I don't know if they have a gun. I don't know if someone could come like punch me out. Like you just don't know as you're
Right.
walking. So that experience right there. So imagine that nothing was done. What if, I had already been raped? What if like something, it's like they want that to already be done and then people show up. You don't like
Yeah.
this from my experience, like they didn't really show up for the prevention. There was kind of just like carry pepper spray. That was the answer and told me to
Yeah.
go about my way. So the thing is like to really bring change. Just imagine if like I was going there as a mom who had like lost a child and they're just kind of like, well, like next
Right.
time, just tell them not to go out at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, who's going to bring this change? Like, how much can a person do? Like, the energy, I can only imagine the energy it takes a parent year after year. Like, you can't really work stably, like your mental health, money, like all these things. And no one honestly really, I feel like, does anything to support the parents who go through something like that so extreme.
Right.
Like just from just watching all that and like the burden, it's like that's no life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you over here fighting for your child day in, day out, and it's like you're screaming like somebody help me. And like it's like people are watching, but no one's helping, that kind of
Right.
suffering. Like who's
Right.
gonna help me? Like I'm one person.
Yes.
I
I know it's heavy, right? Yeah.
Seriously though, and as my friend was mentioning recently, the reason why, regarding Mr. George Floyd, it's because a girl recorded on her camera. If she hadn't,
Right.
we would have never had that main footage.
Right.
Something like that, like to be present and to actually do something about things, such as when I had told them regarding the harassment, they said, oh, they didn't find anything on the camera. I was like, did you watch the whole thing? No, that's what the
Right.
officer told me. I was
Right.
asking him questions. He said, I don't know. You're the
Right.
officer. This is your fucking job.
Right.
And you're telling me I
Right.
don't know. Those two people can go out, rape somebody, kill somebody. Who knows who else they're harassing during daytime. This is like morning time. And
Right.
you're out here and it's down the street from the police station. And they said, I don't know.
Right.
The fuck?
Right.
Why don't you fucking know? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
it's a shame. But as I saw them, it's like, I used to be a security official for Lockheed Martin, right? The naval base.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So as I sat there, as I went there, and this was actually on Juneteenth, I went to the police station and one of the officers was black and one was white. And I was telling him what happened. And the first thing he said was like, well, do you know what they look like? Do you know the car number? Like, fuck no, I don't know. It's your job to find out.
Right.
But the whole thing was when I went there that it wasn't taken seriously. And I felt they were like security and
Right.
not really rocking their uniform,
Right.
And it's not that I have like I can't really say I have like a prejudice. I'm just saying from that particular experience, it's like sit up, your posture like you're a police officer, wear
Right.
your badge tight, like, look good. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, do your job. And it was
Yeah.
kind
You
of just
gotta really put it
slouching.
in.
It's kind of just like a security guard, like eat in, slouch. You kind of like, you don't give like, oh, you lazy. Like, that's the
Right.
vibes I get. So it's like, did you
Right.
even really go? Like to check in on what I said, or did you just tell me that so I go away?
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up the whole scenario because I don't know, like I don't know many black therapists, like especially male
Yeah.
figures in the field. And just to know that how anything and everything can go down for you.
Right.
Like I feel like what is your thinking with that? Like do you always like have a fear of like you're always on point with your notes? Because I did suicide prevention certifications where they did like a court case scenario for my exam.
Right.
And if
Right.
you don't have everything noted, and especially you being minority, you don't
Yeah.
got the proof for each client, each family you're handling. And
Yeah.
let's say one of the members commit suicide, and this from my training, you're stuck. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's your butt.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah. Yeah. And my thoughts on that is I had some awesome professors. I had some awesome trainers, some awesome teachers and mentors throughout the years.
mm,
And I really learned the importance, like you talked about, of being integrated within your work versus work-life balance. It's a very different, unique thing. People talk
Mm-hmm.
about work-life balance, which it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to have this and have this.
Mm-hmm.
I did integrate certain standards in which working on, which we go into personal development, procrastinating, making sure there's no procrastination. So I do
Yeah.
my notes because, yes, I want to help people, but I have
Mm-hmm.
to understand what's happening. It's if I help you or unable to help you, because I always tell myself too, I am not God. And even if a person was God, God gives the people free will, in which He doesn't control them either. So understanding my role and understanding that I only can do what I can do,
Mm-hmm.
being okay with that,
Yeah.
doing the best that I can in that way, but using and extending all of my resources to the point of if I haven't
Wow.
exhausted them, I didn't use them. So,
So I have a, oh yeah, go ahead.
there you go. You can,
I have a question. So you said you use your resources, and I know also for social workers, they use resources. So do you work with social workers as well together?
yes, yes, I work with the courts,
Hmm.
DCS, social workers, school teachers,
A
neighbors
lot.
if possible, anyone
Hmm.
that can be a support because we look at support sometimes as someone who helps us financially,
Hmm.
but support can be someone who just looks out. It can be the kid who's running away from home and the neighbor. You may not have a relationship with them,
Hmm.
but they may just say, "Oh, I seen such and such for you." That's
Hmm.
being supportive. It's another neighbor who may have a camera system in their house and they can look out for whatever may be going on, whether it's a negative peer or you have drug use in the home.
Hmm.
So many different variables, which is why I say MST is very intricate to how what the range is of what you can do.
Hmm.
So even if
Wow.
you don't meet directly with the child, I can then meet with individuals around the child, even if the child never speaks to them.
Mm.
Based on the parents' ability, and I try to show the parent, I'm just showing you what you have impact on.
Hmm.
Every neighbor here has, if a neighbor has a child, they would now you both can help each other. If they don't, it's kind of to go back to it is, I really, really believe and really feel that as as some of these things change, some of the other things are impacted as well. It's kind of like a domino effect. What
Hmm.
you talked about before, some of the injustices and
Hmm.
how people can have that unbalanced system. We meet with police officers too, if need be,
Hmm.
and I can even advocate for the family with support from other people to advocate for me in
Hmm.
so many other things. So all of this stuff is documented, kept very strictly, and I make sure that I do it then, in the moment, and after, because, like you said, nothing's happened unless it's documented. So it's just a matter of being, having remembering why you do what you
Hmm.
do, because you can get burnt out,
I
and
like
a lot of when people get burnt out, a lot of times it's because it's easy to forget why you're doing something if you're hurting. It's like it's like when
that.
you're working out and you're working out and you know why you came to the gym, but once
Yeah.
once you're in the gym and you actually start to feel the burn, you're like, oh no, that's too no.
Yeah.
But why are you going through the
Yeah.
burn, the workout
So
is
do
the
yeah.
important part.
So do you get burnt out now? Like how long are your hours? Are they long or
Well, it all depends on the family. Sometimes I can
wow.
work 50-hour weeks. Sometimes it's slow.
Wow.
It can be 40. Sometimes it's 30. It all
Wow.
depends because just like when we had the conversation on of being on call
Mhm.
or talking to these families,
Mhm.
I extend myself to the family. But we also have other resources where we have, of course, 24/7
Mhm.
hotlines, and we have supportive staff who can come out to the home,
Mhm.
especially if it's on a weekend or if it's past a certain time. We have a
Mhm.
system, which is also very important to success, is creating a system,
Mm.
understanding your limitations. Not that you're terrible at your job, but we all have limits.
Mhm.
Everyone has a limit. So where I have a limitation someone else can pick. I can't stay up 24 hours a day. Even if I could, I would still have limits. So
That's not
we,
good.
yeah, so we have trained staff, people
Mm.
who, they're very impactful, and they can come in, and if it's 3 in the morning, something
Mm.
happens, that
Wow.
person can go out.
Wow.
So it
Wow.
builds that level of support.
I'm going to ask you one last question and then we're going to
Mm.
wrap it up. So thank you so much
Okay,
for
okay.
your time. I
No
want to
problem.
know, do you have any book recommendations?
Man, I read I read a lot of books.
Really?
So of course, Les Brown, You Gotta Be Hungry. That's a
Hmm.
very good book. I like going through that for those who haven't read it. It's a must read. It's one of those books that I don't want to go through his book without people paying for it, but it's one of
Hmm.
those books that had certain life lessons in there, which I listen to a lot of Dr. Miles Monroe as well. He is a phenomenal speaker. And he has a long list of book recommendations, which he talked about family and kingdom living.
Mm.
But one of the books that I would say, gonna narrow it down. One of the books that I like is The Compound Effect.
Hmm.
That book is very good too because I learned this is something I learned from Dr. Miles Monroe is that
Hmm.
information does not create change, conviction.
Hmm.
So I noticed that sometimes we'll have a bunch of information, and which is why I recommend the compound effect because it's more so a system that you can build in a structural piece to so you know how to use the information that you get. Because you can have a lot of information, and it just becomes a lot of information when
That's so true.
so, so I like to compound things and look at what can I change today, you
Hmm.
know. Because if I change it today and I choose to be committed to the change daily, a year from
Hmm.
now that looks totally different.
Hmm.
Kind of like we said, you know what, I'm gonna work out 5 days a week. If you actually did it, a year from now, it would be a very different thing. So the compound effect starts small and you just build on it. It's not saying do something astronomical, like eating an apple a day, you know, eat the apple a day, eat the apple a day, even if it's, just, and it gets you into that habit,
Yeah.
so I really like the compound effect. Right now, that's something that,
Hmm.
um,
Thank you. I will look into
yeah,
that, and so will my viewers. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing yourself on here. How do you
no
feel?
problem. I feel awesome, and I appreciate letting me on and allowing me just to share and be a part of what you have going on, and very much
Um,
excited and
oh,
proud of the growth.
you are not easy to be in touch with at all times.
You know, and you know
Yeah,
what,
it's 1
I,
year now. Can you believe it? It's 1 year,
yeah, it's kind of like flew by,
right?
and I would be more
Last
accessible.
year to
Like
this year.
I would be very much more
Oh,
accessible because I've been waiting and looking forward to it, and um, next time I would be at a desk.
wait, next time
You
what?
know, I would be at a desk. And
Oh, it's okay. I think this is a
but
good vibe.
yeah,
Different is good. It's good to have different things going on. If it's
yeah,
always the same, people know what to expect.
yes. Oh, I'm a very
Mhm.
outdoorsy person, as you know.
I
So
know,
if
so
it
it
wasn't
suits
if it
you.
wasn't too loud, with the birds and all this
You'd be
stuff, I'd probably be
outside.
outside,
I know.
set
I
up
get
pretty
it.
good.
Thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
No
Someone said
problem.
nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
And thank you.
By the way, I do want to tell you all that Jamal is engaged, so he's off limits.
Yes, yes, off limits.
He's blessed and engaged. There you go. I just
But
need the women to know
I do appreciate it, and
that. I
thank
need
you
them to
so
know
much.
that so they don't hit your
I, I,
inbox.
I appreciate it.
I love
Yeah.